Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode here on the Resto Saga Workshop. This week we're back at the Toylander one, and I think this is episode 22. This has been going on for over 18 months now, and we've been making huge progress, but there was quite a bit of a break there as we made an absolute mess of the paint on the wheels, the bonnet and the dashboard. So this episode is a bit of a hop back when I received the wheels, the first paint process, what all went wrong and what I've done to rectify that. So without any further ado, let's get stuck into making the Toylander, always called a Land Rover, a bit more presentable.
So we're starting off this video in a fairly different position, and we're up on the bonnet of the Land Rover purely because I wanted to keep this box out of the way. And obviously you can see here 5 tyres for the Toylander, which is safely stored down there under a dust sheet. So these have all arrived from Toylander today. 2 of them are slightly different in that they have a sprocket welded on. That's those 2, and then these 3 are the same, and one of these is going to be the spare wheel, so I'm going to have to go over decide which one's going to be the spare wheel and go from there. I've also received the dashboard, if I can step down without killing myself and come over to here. So these are the instrument stickers, which are pretty cool. This one is going to be your ignition key, ammeter, fuel gauge, speedometer, 2 little Toylander badges and country of origin sort of sticker. It's pretty cool. These are the hubcaps, and that is what those just press on there, maybe with my rubber mallet or something, just to hold the wheel on. I am going to have to still sand the paint off those stub axles just because the wheels have an inbuilt bearing. I'll show you that in a minute. Keep those safe. And this is the next project. This is the dashboard for the Toylander. It's actually quite decent quality. It is plastic. It's probably going to be the only plastic thing on the Toylander, but I do want to paint it Bonnet colour. This limestone, which I've been using, RIL 1015. Just going to paint it up in that, but I had to go and buy some plastic primer today because I don't really have it. I've never painted plastic before, so it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. There seems to be a protective plastic coat on this. I'm going to peel that off, scuff up the surface because it's probably going to be shiny, with a little scarring pad, and then get a bit of primer on it, I think, and then a colour coat. And it might be worthwhile drilling the mounting holes just before I do that too. So that's what I'm going to do next. And this is just showing you how shiny that was underneath that protective plastic. It does seem a bit of a shame to scuff it up, but I think it'll be much better painted as the same colour as the Toylander itself, rather than sticking out very obviously against the dashboard. So quick rub over with the scarring pad, and let's see where we go from there. Just while I'm waiting for the last of the white spirit to evaporate off there, you can see that's the scuffed up surface. So just take the shine off it. Although it still looks a little bit shiny around the sides, it's definitely given a better key for the paint to adhere to. So we'll get some plastic primer on that, a bit of colour coat, a bit of lacquer, and then it'll be good to fit. And as you can see, we've got the colour coat on the dashboard, and that's without any lacquer, and it's already pretty shiny, so quite pleased with that actually. I'll give it a wee light sand over before I put any lacquer on it, and then that piece will be done. So I think it's time to get back to my scarring pad. This is what I'm using, and I'll start having to go with these wheels. There's 5 of them to do, and I'm going to need Bonnet done on both sides, so it's going to take a wee bit of time. Let's get on with that. Lots of painting to be done, and as I'm sure you don't need to see it all, but always nice to see a bit of a transformation in these parts. And here we have my wheel painting set up, and this is going to be quite tedious when it comes to doing both sides of all 5 wheels, but hopefully it'll give good results. I've taped around here to make sure it's all well secured, and then I've gone around and put these pages in to keep overspray from getting on the tyre wall. I've also gone around with the scarring pad and roughed up the surface. I think that is powder coated, so just a little bit of normal primer over the top will hopefully give good stick and adhesion, and then colour coat and then lacquer. So this is the inside of the wheel. The outside of the wheel has a grease nipple and a tyre filling point that I've now forgotten what the real name of it is, for an air valve even. So That's one side, and probably put a little bit of tape over the centre bit just to keep the paint off this rubber seal. So to do that on all 5 wheels, and then we'll get them fitted and see what they look like. Pretty exciting. And yet more painting parts of this video. We have some before and after. I didn't bother with the masking tape around the rim on this one. I just went straight in with the paper because I sort of figured the masking tape was a bit of double effort that probably isn't necessary, but I'll soon find out. And it's good to be doing the inside of the wheels first so I can actually find out if this method works. And a bit of overspray won't matter, just so much on the inside. Perfect the technique and then do the outside. And there we have 2 sides of the wheels painted. So 5 wheels, as in 4 wheels, 1 spare. Both sides of all 5 wheels is going to be 10 sides, so now I'm 20% of the way there. It's going to be a long and tedious process, and I'm sure you can appreciate that I'm not going to video every bit of it, but these have been rubbed down, primed, colour coded, and then lacquered, and these are the inside of the wheel, so it is a bit of a rough go, and you can see it's probably not the most thorough colour code, so you're not really going to see it. But what I might do is switch to a white primer. I think would be a bit better than grey, because the wheels are originally black. White might be a bit better, and then you'll be halfway there. You don't need just as much colour code to hide it, but we'll get all those done and then get them on the car. Moving on to something slightly different. Sorry, central heating's going on again. I've marked the bonnet out here to fit the spare wheel, so there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 rubber stoppers to keep the wheel off paintwork, and then there's going to be a centre mounted little clamping system, which you will see now. So time to drill those holes. That's why I put the masking tape on so the drill doesn't slip across my paint and make an almighty mess. Here we are again, and whilst this centre bit is just sat there, these 4 rubber pads are now riveted in place, having carefully measured them. And I have drilled the centre hole there, so I think what I'll do is drill out the centre of this very carefully, very, very carefully, and then put the bolt through that so I know exactly where to bend, put the 5 rivets to hold that on. And this is the genuine Toylander item, just because I thought I wasn't going to be able to make something as good myself. So let's have a go at that and try really hard not to make a mess of this. Some very neat drilling, if I might say so myself. Got it nicely centered there, and I'm just going to pop the spare wheel holder on now. There we go, 5 rivets later, the center mounting point is on. It's actually added a little bit of rigidity to the bonnet, and it looks really well. So just waiting on the paint drying on the wheels over there, and we'll get one of those put on there and see what it looks like. And there we have a wheel just set on in place, not clamped down as the paint's still a little bit soft, but I think that looks really cool. Sort of distracts away from the slightly lower quality paint on the bonnet, but also looks really good, and I'm glad I went for those slightly more off-road type tyres. And then the bonnet will fold down quite nicely on top of that, so keeps everything off the bodywork. And those little rubber pads are doing their job, keeping the tyre up off the paint. Very pleased with how that's turned out, and a pretty quick job there this evening. So this is a little bit frustrating. After quite a lot of painting later, it turns out my lacquer and the paint is having a reaction. It's all fine whenever there's just a colour coat on, but as soon as you put the lacquer on, the whole thing goes a gooey mess and just never seems to dry. It's even happened on a bonnet here. There's this weird, it's gone soft, and this is nearly pulled back from the edge. And it's the same on this wheel here. Getting these big cracks down it. Get that out of the way. You see it there. Because this wheel's laying flat, it's probably not just as obvious. Hugely annoying. So this is going to need sanded back at the very least, and we'll go from there. Alright, quite a significant jump in time here, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the video explaining what a mess the paint in the Toylander wheels has actually turned out to be. So this is an example of just how bad it was. It's all cracked and flaky. Well, this one actually has dried, but this is probably, what, a couple of months down the line now since I painted this. I started sanding it off here, realised that was going to be an impossible task just with the shape of the wheel. all the little fittings like the valve and so on, so I have decided to use some paint stripper. The paint stripper I started off with was Nitromorse, which is not as good as it used to be. It's not just as strong, and it's ridiculously expensive. £17 for a litre. Yikes. So that is finished now, and then lockdown happened over Christmas. So now I'm onto this stuff here, which is Polycell paint stripper, which it says is maximum strength. It's still not great, but to be honest, it is enough to soften the powder coat, because the wheels came powder coated from Toylander. This is one obviously that never got painted, it's just about to get primed. So the wheels came powder coated in black from Toylander, which is lovely. I wanted them in cream to match the rest of the Land Rover, so it was going to be RAL 1015. So this one here, I'm just going to prime it and paint it and not put the lacquer on, because the lacquer has been the problem. This one here has been paint stripped very successfully. I will show this stage later on in this video. So that's ready for some etch primer, then high build primer, then the colour coat. The other side, this is actually the bad paint, which actually it's not actually that bad, and this has reacted okay. There's still a few cracks and so on in the paint. This is going to be the inside of the wheel. I'm actually tempted to leave this one because it actually looks okay. Save myself time and money, because by the time you've bought paint stripper at a lot of money per litre for a wheel you're not going to see, I might just leave that one. Let me know in the comments below whether you think you should just continue it. So that one's done, ready for paint, and over here is a finished one. So this has been stripped and then repainted, and I think it looks pretty good. Look at the shine in that. That's out of an aerosol. Pretty pleased. Masked everything off. This side's been done too. Still have to take the masking off the gear. This is obviously a back wheel, and I put a bit of tar paint on for a bit of contrast. So quite pleased with this. This is how they all will end up. So one wheel done, 4 more to go. Bit of progress, bit of work to be done, and then my own Land Rover still in bits. So 2 projects going at the one time. This was not meant to happen, but you know how it goes. So let's keep going on with this, and hopefully by the end of this video we have 5 finished wheels. And just to show you the setup I'm using here to protect the rubber of the tire from the paint stripper, this is just cereal box cut in a little bit of card, and then I can brush the paint stripper on the whole way around the metal. I've shoved some blue roll down here to keep it clean, and I've sort of tucked the valve down inside there, and I've shoved some more blue roll to plug that hole, because I don't want any paint stripper going on the inner tube either. And then I'm just going to slap a load of paint stripper on this, scrape the loose stuff off after a few hours, and then reapply it, and it'll be enough to soften the powder coat. And then I go over the powder coat with this is just kitchen variety wire wool, like a pot scar, and that's really all that's necessary to lift it off. A bit of elbow grease, but it'll then hopefully come up like this, bare metal, and be really easily etch primed. And this is the etch primer I'm using. It's U-Pole. I've used this quite a lot. I used it when I painted my full-size Land Rover. Etch primer is important to use on the bare metal, because it just etches, or acid etch, bites into the bare metal and really gives good adhesion. That's the plan anyway. And this is the paint stripper starting to work, and you can see these sort of cracks in the paint that were there are sort of widening up, so presumably the paint stripper does work by attacking the soft paint that I've applied and nearly shrinking it. So a few hours of that and I'll be ready to scrape off. First of all, I just use a screwdriver, gets the most of it off, and then the wire wool or pot scar, as I've used, it's sort of like a gel. This paint stripper does sit on quite thick, but that makes it easy enough to apply, and it stays where you put it, which is quite good. And after 24 hours of the paint stripper sitting on there, this is what it looks like. You can see it started to lift the paint here, and this is just going over with the screwdriver just to scrape it down to the metal. And then I use the wire wheel to take the residual black powder coat off. So a bit painstaking, takes a wee while to go around the whole wheel, but it's definitely going to be worth it. And this is really the last one actually that needs stripped and painted, because That one just needs primed and coloured. This has had the etch and the filler prime on it, and I can't remember what the underside of it looks like, but I think it might be okay. It might need stripped, but definitely we're making progress. So maybe one more side needing stripped, and then I'll line the wheels up here, and that'll be a major milestone in the build of the Toylander. The other thing to mention is that I'm doing this in the depths of winter. Air temperature outside is probably about 2 degrees, so as with any chemical reaction, a bit of heat always helps. And unfortunately I don't have a heated garage, so one coat of paint stripper probably isn't going to do it. So time to slap a bit more on and see how we get on with that. And there we go, after a second application of more paint stripper and a bit of scraping later with the screwdriver. That's a significant improvement. So I'm just going to go over it now with a bit of wire wool, clean up the last bits, and that'll take it down to the bare metal. Then etch prime it, filler prime it, colour coat, and that should be it. The colour coat, I'm actually being quite sneaky. My main sitting room in the house is just behind that wall and significantly warmer, so I paint it in here in the garage, then run into the house before Mrs. Retrosaga catches me, and get the paint to dry in the heat, and you get a significantly better finish than in a cold, damp garage here. So I think we'll leave it there for this episode. I'm sure you're all bored of painting by this stage. And not to leave you in any suspense before I finish the video, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wheels finished. So that's obviously 4 wheels and 1 for the bonnet. And they've all now been stripped and painted, both sides. Some have better finishes than other. I think this is probably the best with the least amount of orange peel, although there obviously is still some. Some have significantly more orange peel and maybe a bit less shine. Probably just dependent on the humidity and the temperatures outside, but absolutely delighted. 5 wheels done, time to make a bit more headway with the Toylander, although still have the dash to finish stripping and the bonnet, which is a large panel and quite fragile too, so not out of the woods yet, but huge steps forward.
So I really hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up down below, hit the subscribe button, there's loads more coming, and we'll be moving on to motors, electrical work, and getting this Toylander on the road for my little son. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter as well for all the updates. Really appreciate you watching. I'll catch you again soon. Cheerio!